I'm on City Island in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And this is the Walnut Street Bridge. So this is actually a bridge that was originally constructed, I believe, in 1890s. And it was I believe it probably was originally used for horses and carriages, but it was also used by early automobiles. And it's one of the oldest, if not, I believe it said it was even the oldest surviving truss bridge over the Susquehanna River. And it was eventually deemed to be unsafe for automobiles, modern automobiles, so they turned it into a pedestrian way. And you can see in the background there's actually a highway bridge over there. And if we turn around, there's a more modern road bridge. There's a railroad bridge behind that, and there's even a third and possibly a fourth bridge behind that as well. So there's a ton of bridges over this river. And you can see some ice floating in the river. We're actually looking north when we look at the bridge, and the south is downstream. And there's the city of Harris in the background. This building is right before the bridge, so the bridge is over here. And this is actually labeled as a carriage house, so I guess this dates back to when this was used for mostly horses and buggies before it was converted to automobiles. It was probably a stable where they kept the horses and dealt with the carriages before crossing the river. In the background there's actually some type of sports, I believe it's a carnival actually. It looks like there's one of those horse rides, so one of those merry-go-round rides. And in the background it actually looks like there's a baseball field as well. And here's a view from the bridge upstream. So you can see the road bridge, and then the bridge beyond that you can just see the supports of. That's actually a railroad bridge that used to be operated by the Pennsylvania Railroad. And then there's a couple more road bridges as well. So I believe I counted total 4 bridges on to the north of here. Then there's the bridge I'm standing on, then there's a highway bridge to the south. So they definitely have established a lot of bridges over this river. So I'm standing on one of the spans of the bridge, and here you can actually see the lattice structure that makes up this bridge. So this bridge is a Baltimore type through truss, and it was constructed by the Phoenix Bridge Company, which was a subsidiary of the Phoenix Steel Corporation. So you can see all the girder works and the cables connecting this bridge, but yeah, it doesn't look like there's a bicycle coming by. It doesn't look like there's all that much holding this bridge up, so I can understand why they didn't want modern automobiles crossing this bridge. So looking down the bridge, you can actually see on the right is a pedestrian pathway, and to the left that's where the cars would have gone, and there's the very left side of it, there's actually a guardrail. So imagine people driving over here would make contact and collide with that guardrail all the time because it's very narrow. Also, looking at this girder works, you can see there's no support beneath it, so it's just this grid work and then the river below it. So if you drop anything down there, it's going in the river. And looking back, that's the city island right there to the west. And there's a highway bridge, and actually something interesting over there. There's what looks like the remains of some type of dam works over there. So here's a closer look at that dam, and you can see all the ice that's backed up on it. I know at one point there was actually a canal that went through Harrisburg, so I wonder if maybe that's something that has to do with the canal. So maybe it was a lock or some structure that allows the canal to pass over the river. So I know that the canal would have had to cross over the Susquehanna River here in order to continue westward, because the canal actually would have originated in Philadelphia area and ended in Pittsburgh, so it would have crossed over the entire state. Maybe that is some structure that was used to lower the boats into the river where they could be towed across, or maybe it was some type of canal path over the bridge at one point, or over the river at one point. In the back you can can see a highway bridge and then some highlands to the south. And that dome building over there, that might be the capital of Pennsylvania, so the Pennsylvania Capitol building. And looking down the bridge, you can actually see more of the girder structure that would have supported this bridge. So it would have been held up by the tension between those cross cables on the top and the lattice structure to the side. So some support, but not a lot of support. And imagine a modern automobile, let alone a modern truck, would have collapsed the bridge. I also kind of wonder how they did two-way traffic on the bridge, since this pathway is clearly only wide enough for one automobile or even one horse and carriage. So maybe they had some rule where they let a certain number of cars go through one direction and they waited for cars to go through the other direction. But there's the road bridge, and behind it you can actually see the pantograph wires for the railroad bridge. I am between two of the spans of the bridge, so here you can actually see one of the plates that covers the connection between two of the spans. You can actually see that it's pretty corroded away. You can also see down there the concrete column which would have supported the bridge. And you can see actually there's a log that's caught up on the upstream side of the concrete column. And there's the Harrisburg side of the bridge, so the major city. So this would be the east side of the bridge. I'm on the east side of the bridge, and there's actually an interesting statue over there. So a wooden statue. I think it's a gnome or something like that. At least I hope it's a gnome. So let me just zoom in on it. I said that I was on an island originally. Well, this is the western section of the bridge leading from the island to the west bank of the river. And as you can see, it's been blanked off and has actually not been converted to a footpath like the other one. And there's actually trees and roots. There's trees growing through the bridge itself and leaves and debris everywhere. And just looking through there, you can see some of the debris on the base of the bridge. I'm right outside of the gate here. And looking down, as you can see, that there's branches overgrown, and the other side's also blocked off as well. You can actually see some of the guardrails from this used to be a road bridge. And you can see the great work that makes up this bridge. You can actually see down through the bridge. If you look here, you can see down through the bridge as well. So if you drop something through there, it's lost in the river. It's actually a sleeping bag down there for some reason. And you can see over in the back there, there's the other end of the bridge and the west bank of the river. You can also see some more of the lattice, which makes up the support of this and the structure of this bridge. And you can see some of the cables holding it together. What's interesting is actually that looks like there was one point a power line over there. So to the very left of the bridge, it looks like there was maybe a power line going across the bridge as well. So maybe this was used to transmit electricity to the other side of the river. I can't imagine they would have a powered cable car or anything like that over the bridge. But yeah, that up there actually looks like it could be some type of catenary wires for some power system as well. So yeah, this bridge was definitely used to hold power lines at one point as well. I'm on the east bank of the river now, and I wanted to get a closer look at that Pennsylvania Railroad bridge. So this bridge would have at one point belonged to the Pennsylvania Railroad, It's now operated by Amtrak or possibly Norfolk Southern. Might be shared by the two. You notice the catenary wires on the bridge? That's probably used by Amtrak in their electrified trains. But this would have been one of the major connections over this river, over the Susquehanna River. And west out of here would have eventually ended up in Pittsburgh. So this would have been a major stopping over point for traffic between Philadelphia and the East Coast and the Pittsburgh area. And it would be especially significant when Pittsburgh was a major steel hub. And actually there was and still is a freight yard and a switching point on this side of the river a little bit down the tracks. At one point that would have been the Pennsylvania Railroad's major, most important switching yards, and it would have basically would have sorted out traffic that was going east and west. You can actually see some icebergs floating in, or some pieces of ice floating in the river. And it turns out that the reason why the western side of this bridge is closed is because there's actually a couple of spans of the bridge missing. So I don't know if the bridge collapsed or if they removed it for engineering reasons. Or maybe they just didn't want to have to maintain this section of the bridge. Or possibly they wanted to clear it out because it was a navigational hazard or something. Although, looking at the bridge between us and there, I can't imagine that there's any, that bridge would create any navigational hazards that these other bridges don't create. And there is the city island in the center. You can see where the bridge actually crosses over it, and there's the city with the state capitol building